Well, hello ladies and gentlemen, we are here again today. I'm sorry it's been a little while since I made a video. I'm fighting cold, so we're going to do the diff on our 835B. This will be the front diff. I've already done the mid and the rear diff. I'm rather surprised in the quality of this of the diffs on this. They aren't, I don't know, machine quality, I guess, and they're definitely not put together by professionals. I hate to say that. I hate to slam Duratrax for that, but on the rear diff, like 3 of the screws are stripped out. Well, the screw holes, the screws weren't. As soon as they started backing them out, the threads came out with it. Now, I don't use an electric screwdriver or an electric drill to back in or back out any screws or put any in, because that generates heat that usually will tear out the threads. I cringe whenever I see a lot of these guys on YouTube putting together their RC cars with any type of electric screwdriver or electric drill. Myself, I will not do it. Take your time. All this is a rolling model. If you're in a hurry, I hate to say it, but you're going to do nothing but damage if you're in a hurry and need to use a screw gun or an electric screwdriver. So do everything by hand. So this is the front diff. As we can see here, there is a lot of grease just on the drive gear, which I'm rather surprised in. It is not good grease. It's just axle grease. It's not, from what I can tell, and I've worked on many cars over the years, and I'm not just talking RC cars, I'm talking full-size cars. This is standard axle grease. It's not anything special. So we're going to dig into this. Obviously, I already pulled this off the car. We're going to open this up and see what we got inside. Let's back that out. That screw's already done. I think I already took half the nuts and everything off this, so this should come right apart here with one more screw here. And see, the reason why you don't want to use an electric screwdriver, there's a lot of tension on this, and even by hand you do generate some heat there, and you can tear those threads out. So take your time. Don't, you're not going anywhere. Don't worry about it, got that. Let's push these out. Hopefully push these out. There we go. 1, 2. Should be all out there, so we should be able to split this apart. Alright. 1/2 of that. Here's the diff itself. Now it's covered in grease, and it smells bad too. Alright, what I'm not going to do though is I'm not going to clean that grease off there. You want a little grease on here, and this should be fine for running. I'm just going to leave that there, and I'm going to just coat a little of this grease on the gear. You could use Tamiya grease or black grease. I believe Tamiya has a black grease. I'm using the clear. And that's fine, as long as there's a little grease on here, but they threw in quite a bit, and there was a bunch on the pan of the car. I'll have a picture for you there. So we're just going to leave that alone. This bearing runs good. There's no slop, so there's no reason to even mess with that. But let's tear into this after we clean this off. So we're just going to take off the majority of the grease. Oh, look at that. It is is just literally just so thick and nasty. I am not one for using gobs of grease on here. The tension, when I rolled, I already did the rear and the mid. So I did a test, and when I roll, let's make sure these spacers, you have 2 spacers here, so it keeps it centered in the diff. The funny thing is the mid one only had 1, so I kind of worried about that, but I set it up with just 1 with the same spot, so it seems to roll fine. We'll find out. It doesn't seem to walk around. I think they put that in to keep from walking around inside the enclosure. So, but what I noticed was when I rolled the other diffs, there was a lot of tension, and you could hear the gears. I mean, this seems fine here, but the center diff definitely made a weird sound. So once I got it all apart, got everything cleaned up, there's a lot of grease inside here. You guys are gonna be surprised. Got all the grease cleaned up. I ran 10,000, running 10K in the mid diff, 3K in the rear diff, and we're gonna run 7K in the front. That's a setup a lot of the guys I have talked to around about there have been running. I got one individual's running 10K both front and mid, and then he's running 5K in the rear, and he says he plants well and everything. So it's all about your setup, so I thought I'd give this a try. The more the rear diff I left loose because I like a loose, really quick reacting rear end. So I guess I'm more of a drifter. I don't know if you call it that, but that seems to work for me. So they said you wanted to use a thinner oil, so I checked all over the internet, and that's about the average of what I got. So I set that up. Obviously, I'm using just the Associated factory team, you know, stuff by Lucas. It seems to be the cheapest. I was gonna try and use like a gear oil, like an automotive or a motorcycle type gear oil. This was about the same, and I noticed that one diff, I could probably fill 5 diffs with 1 bottle, so I'm not worried about it. I'm not going to change it that many times throughout the year. Probably, I'll probably do it 3 times a year. So, all right, I need to shut up and start opening this up. Hopefully, I can get it here. Now, see, these are really tight screws, so. Once again, not using an electric screwdriver or a screw gun. You don't want to do that. I cringe. I watch these guys on YouTube, at least a few of the major ones that do that, and I'm like, ah. And I'm not talking they're using it in the machine metal parts. They're using it on the plastic parts. So if it's on a machine metal part, you know, it's like the 4mm thick pan bodies, or or pans, and somewhere in the shock tower or something like that, and it's just going into the metal area, and that's what's holding it. That's fine, but never, never, never. And I tell everybody this, and they laugh, and then they come back and whine to me when their rear end's falling off because they use an electric screwdriver. And all it takes is, you may think it's tight, but once that vibration starts, and you've already torn out a bunch of those threads, come whining to me, oh, my rear end is, my transfer case or gear case is coming off, it won't hold in, so on and so forth. And there's a couple pretty good fixes for that. I had to fix an A-arm. Alright, 4 screws. And these seem to be pretty much the universal gear cases that I've found. I'm watching all these videos and everything. A couple of them seem different in areas, but I'm wondering myself if like the Associated or even the Losi ones would work. So let's see if we can get this apart here. There we go. Alright, first thing I noticed was, and I may have pulled that off, but that O-ring looks like it had been sitting in there. Everyone see that? Now look at that. This one, this is rather funny. There doesn't seem like there's much grease in there at all. So it doesn't look like there's much grease in here at all, which doesn't make me happy actually. So they packed the rear and the mid just full, where the tension on this was just incredible. So let's get these out. Get these gears out. Sometimes you can do it this way, and they will come out, or you gotta find which one's the top one and just lift her out. These have spacers on either end of the gears, so watch when you're pulling these out. And there's that, and then the center, the other drive gear comes out. Now we have a set screw here, just to plug the hole so you can pull this pin out. Set screw. Let's get this lined up here. And I didn't bring all my tools. And there is the pin. Okay, set screw pin. Bearing, drive unit, and there's one more little washer here. This would be the thrust washer, and it looks like, oh, and it was stuck to the O-ring, which is fine. I'm going to actually leave the grease on the O-ring and that thrust washer. We're going to clean that out. Now, while I hand clean that out, do not use any type of solvent on that other than soap and water. It is plastic or nylon. You don't want to use anything harsh. As for the gears, that's something different. You want to take these washers off, and you can leave the grease on there. That's fine. When we put it back together, we're going to re-grease those, but it's just going to be, oh, what would you call it, a dollop of grease? Because there are going to be some modifying we're going to do here that a lot of the European racers do. Now, granted, this is a dirt, you know, I'm going to run this on a dirt track, you know, outdoor, off-road track. But we're going to take the ideas of the carpet racers and apply it to this, because it can't hurt. You know, it may only help, it may not help at all, it may just be for my own well-being, but it's going to do something. Now, everybody's wondering what this pan of white stuff is here. Believe it or not, that's mineral spirits, and that is the environmentally safe mineral spirits, like the alternative for thinning paint, so on and so forth, and cleaning up your tools. This is why I'm not using it on any paint, because it's white and it scares me. But I will use it to clean parts. It even seems thick to me, but it will cut the grease. Okay. We are going to clean these all off. Make sure there's no O-rings. There's no O-rings in these. Okay, that's fine. Let's get this one off. Take the O-ring out. And he wants to be stubborn. There we go. Okay. Now that worries me right there. There's like this red stuff inside this gear. Now what is that? It's rubber, it's red. Seems to me like another O-ring was in here at one time. Oh man, I get to call it Duratrax and just razz them. This looks like they had this diff together once before. Maybe they tested it and found out it leaked. So instead of tearing it apart fully, they just pulled the top off and put another O-ring in. You guys believe that? There is red stuff in here that looks like a chewed up O-ring like one of these. So put that in there. Wash it all off. Seems to be cutting the grease pretty good. It is. It's doing really well. And we can pull this out. Okay. Remember, there's another thrust washer. Oh, look at that. Missing the inner O-ring. Wow. We're going to substitute an O-ring from there. Oh man, they chewed that right up. They didn't even put that together right. So, see people, even pulling apart a brand new car will get you somewhere. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. That's amazing. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to clean up all these parts, find another O-ring. It's probably going to be just a black one for right now. And then we'll come back. Okay, so here we are. Back to our little issue with the O-ring. Obviously, I found out it wasn't the big O-ring that goes around the outside of the gear case here, transfer case. It's the O-ring that goes between the shaft of the drive and the gear. That obviously an assembler was having a bad day one day and decided to put it on top of the washer in between the gear and the washer instead of under the washer between the actual driven gear and the washer itself. So ended up being chewed up. I had a Vitrol washer on hand which mic'd out to be perfect, same size as this, and it resists fuel and grease, petroleum products, so on and so forth, and it works perfect. So if you guys run into that bind, just go down to your local Riley's, Shucks, Pep Boys, and look for Vitrol. They have an assortment of Vitrol, you know, it's a little packet of Vitrol O-rings, and you'll find the one that fits right in there, and it's perfect. So we got that part of the case I already assembled. Now, we're going to get down to doing what a lot of the European drivers do for their on-road cars and their carpet cars. And that's worried about the back sides of these gears. Now, I've already done a few of these back sides of these gears. If you can see, they have like, it looks like the casting holes, and not really holes, more divots, I guess you could say, in the back. But they all have burrs, and you can feel them on the back, and that can't be good on these washers. And you can also see where the washers are cut in. So what I do is I take, and I have a perfectly flat surface here. What I did to make this, basically, I took an old picture frame that we were throwing out, and it had the smooth glass, not the textured glass. And I cut a piece of MDF to fit in behind, and I just laddered it in glue, pressed it together, and left it overnight to sit. Now you have a perfect flat surface. So getting back to the gear here, I start out with 600 grit sandpaper and lightly sand it like this. And then once I feel that those burrs are gone, and sometimes even the cut where the washer cut in, you don't want to take too much off because that's going to give you slop in your gears. You just want enough to take the burrs off and to kind of polish it up. Then I go to 2000 grit and I lightly do it there, making sure I'm not pressing too hard, nor taking too much off, and thus you have yourself a nice shiny surface. Now, I've already done these gears. I also do the large gear because that has a large washer that goes on the back that acts as a mechanical seal. And the better, the flatter the surface, the more it's going to seal. And I noticed this washer looks like the one where the O-ring got chewed up in it, so it wasn't very flat. So I was able to press it out and get it to go flat and everything. And then I did do some light sanding on it. So once again, same thing here, 600 grit sandpaper. take off the burrs, maybe little divots. Like this wasn't perfectly flat, so I did take off a little more, and then go over the 2000 grit, polish it up, wipe it off, make sure it's all nice and flat. So that might be maybe overkill, but I'll tell you, I'd rather be overkilling it and feeling better about my racing. You know, instead of having to worry about holding back. You know, I want to press this car right to its limits, and I want nothing failing. Everything's cleaned up here. Alright, so we're back. I found the washer. It was tucked under the other one. So what we're going to do is, we're now going to assemble this. I also cleaned the diff case here, and I made sure it was flat also, just using the 2000 grit, and it was off also. So you don't want to take too much off. Once you start taking stuff off, you start closing your tolerances, and things get a little tight. So we're going to grab our drive here. Here it is. Grab our drive. We see it's still greasy, so we're going to clean that. I'm also going to hit this real quick with just the 600. Just make sure the burrs are off it. Nothing major. Don't want to take any material. Make sure it's nice and clean. Polished up. Yeah, this feels good. It had a couple burrs on it, I know, earlier. So put that aside. We're going to take our O-ring. Goes inside the diff case. Just like so. Now we're going to grease that in between the mechanical seal and that. And I'm using some Maxima grease here. All-purpose grease. It's actually a little lighter than what they had in there, but I feel more confident using this. We're going to put just a dollop in there, and of course it's going to give me issues. So like this. There we go. You don't want too much. We just want to kind of use the actual grease as a seal. Because then we're going to put in the thrust washer. Make sure it's kind of greased up too. It's lubricated. Get it centered. You can do this a number of different ways. You can put this on after you put the drive in, the actual drive, but I prefer to do it this way. Now, once again, using your diff lube, make sure you put enough on here to lubricate the shaft of it so you don't score the actual O-ring. We're going to hold that all together. We're going to push this up, and in it goes. Nice. Nice, smooth action. I also cleaned this bearing and pre-installed it, so here comes the fun part. It's putting this pin in. So you got your little set screw here. Of course, you've taken it out. Now you got to line up the hole of that set screw, and of course it's kind of hard to see the hole, but if you get it close, it should fall right in just like it did. Then you can take your needle nose pliers, pull it down, nice. So we got that there. Everything's in nice and tight. Make sure that pin is centered. The back of this, we've already greased the other end, so we don't have to worry about the back of this. It's nice and smooth, so drop that large gear in, and then make sure it's pressed down on that pin. Voila, we've got that part. That's not the hard part. The hard part's coming up. Okay, so I am going to grease these shafts. Not much. Like I said, just a little to more hold them together while I put this in here. You don't want enough grease in there that you're starting to contaminate your silicone diff lube, because that's what the silicone is for. So just enough to put a coating on it to run these gears in. Keep in mind, when you do all these, they're nice and shiny on the back. Washer. Repeat on the other side. you want to keep so they hold together enough for you to put these in. Let's do the other gear. Washer, if it will come and cooperate. Sometimes, there we go, put a little grease on your fingers. Alright, so now we should be able to drop these in. Sometimes you have to press these, give them a little push, but these seem to drop in just fine. That might make me worry because the other ones I actually had to push down. These fell in, but the play in them isn't too bad. So, and like I said, all this extra work we do with like sanding the back of these gears and all that might be overkill for off-road. But I'll tell you one thing, I'd rather feel better that I know I did it right, or just put this added extra work into it, and I can, you know, worry about other areas of the car and this not failing. Consequently, if I hadn't opened up, this would have failed. I'd have gave it a day of bashing or a day of break-in, and I would have noticed oil leakage out the front end for sure, or grease, because it would have heated up pretty good. So there, put those two gears on, make sure the washers are on the outside. We're going to drop this one in. And this one. Okay, I ended up having to pull that, pull the other gears out because I forgot to put, there's a flat spot on these shafts, and they mesh together, kind of like Lincoln logs. So, I got this one straight up and down. Now we can reassemble this other end again. Because I pulled it out, I ended up cleaning it up one more time, make sure there's no contaminants on it. Gears. Said you don't want to put it, you just want to put enough grease on to hold it together. Consequently, I was looking at Associated's diffs. They have a larger washer for their small gears, and I'm wondering if it shouldn't be that way with this one. So I might order a set of those next time I pull all these apart and see how they work. So, okay, make sure your little Lincoln log connection is down on this shaft because it's going on top of the other one. Down. We're going to work that in just like so. Those should mesh together real well. Oh, those gears feel so good. Before they were making some weird noise, and that's nice. Alright. So before we do the next step, which is actually put the diff lube in, we need to put the set screw in. You'll find out your diff lube will start dripping out on you. So grab that, grab your wrench. You're just going to put it down so the set screw is flush. You don't want to go any deeper. You actually run it into the gear. Make sure you're still free. Let's fill this up. Now, according to the instructions, you want to fill just the top of these gears right here. But what you'll find out when you do that, and you end up putting that this larger gear back together on top of it, it'll push out. So you want to kind of keep, you want to check it. So I'm actually going to pull that large gear off and put it on here. So let's squirt this in some diff lube, and we'll work this in because it may look full there, but because of the thickness, see, it wants to push out now. Thickness of your diff lube is now going to work in. Now I can add some more. Try and not get any of this silicone around the lip, like I'm doing there. Make sure you wipe it off because you are going to put sealer there. And you want none of that silicone there. silicone. And we're going to add a little more. I was very lucky to find that Vitral O-ring that was mic'd to the same size. So just work this in. You could let it sit. Actually, I'm just going to run it. Oh, and it keeps pushing the gears out on me. There, just at the top of these small gears. One more. I think that's going to do her right there. It's going to be just fine. So, we're going to let that sit a moment while I pull this gear off. Should come right off. Should come right off. Nice. And we're just going to mesh this together and see how much comes out. See, a little comes out, but it's to the top of the gears is actually inside the gear case. Once you push this gear down, it actually brings it right up level. So that's pretty much where you want, but you want a tiny bit of airspace in there, and it's usually behind the gears, because this fluid will expand and contract. So you want some space, some area for it to do that. Otherwise, when it expands, if it's totally filled and all those pockets totally in the back are filled of the gears, it's going to press out. Alright, here comes the hard part, and that is, make sure your hands are clean. Alright, totally wiped off clean, and I always use gloves because you never know what these chemicals are going to do to you. Plus the gloves you get are cheap, so why not? Alright. We got to get this O-ring back on there. So I use former gasket sealant. You can use, I believe they were using 4011, which has been replaced by 4911 if I'm not mistaken. And toothpicks, because you're not going to put that much on. So these are pretty close tolerance between that gear and the diff case itself. I'm going to run it around the actual lip. There's, like a ledge where that O-ring sits. So I'm just going to run it there. You're going to use much. I'm not getting that much on my toothpick. If I do get much, I'll be able to spread it all around that lip. Just like so. Okay. There. That's going to hold that O-ring. I'm going to actually spread some right on the outside. This stuff does not dry as like an epoxy, so you'll be able to take this apart again. It stays flexible. It's just enough to seal it. So, like I said, this is the toughest part of the whole thing. Is getting this little O-ring to seat. Like, yeah, see? So it loves to snap back on you. But once you get it, you're all good. Now, wipe off everything. Make sure the back of the gear has no... There. None is falling over. Into the silicone. Perfect. Perfect, perfect. Alright, let's match this up. A little piece of gunk there. Make sure your pin's centered. Put her together. Follow. I'm going to pull it apart a little. There we go. Let's make sure I didn't pull the O-ring off. Nope. Find your alignment holes. A little stubborn. You don't want it stubborn. That's definitely not what we want. A little bit stubborn. So that means we might have too much on here. wipe a little off. Yeah, a little pinch in the O-ring there. So let's do this again. Make sure you got pins lined up. There we go. That's going to go on nice and flat. Still had pieces of the that other O-ring in there. Okay. Okay. As I drop it, it's good. Make sure it's on there still. Yep. Pretty centered. Good. Everything looks flush according to the holes. Actually, the drive is working great. Okay, now, people are going to ho, him, and haw me on this. Ho, him, and haw. Not going to like this. Okay, so, silicone, threads, and screws do not mix. You'll find that the silicone cleans those threads, and then it makes it way hard to put them in there. So I'm going to take a tiny bit of grease, and I'm going to put them on the bottom of these threads. Believe me, these threads aren't going to come out. You don't put any Loctite on them anyways. Although this is my first gas car, I've never had any of the sealed diffs I have worked on. This is the this is the procedure I've always done. I've never had one come out. So, but you don't want these things starting to tack up in there, because you'll notice that that silicone is going to start coming out the screw holes here in a moment. Plus the grease is going to add a little bit of sealer in there too. Yeah, see, I added some starting to move up. So we're going to tack this in now. Get these perfectly straight up and down threaded. Do not cross thread these or you are done. You will have to get another case. One screw won't go in a hole because it seems like it's cross threading. Try another one. That one in straight. So yeah, see, this is going in. It's going in tight, but it's not. You'll sometimes hear them going start chattering on you. You don't want that to happen. That is a bad thing. Okay, that one in okay, so I'm going to kind of install these, find the ones that fit in just right. I think that one's going to be a little stubborn. No, let's try this one. That one in okay, alright, straight. So let's pray this one goes in here, straight. Stubborn on this one. There we go. Like the gear might have been pressed against it. Alright, so let's run that one down first. You can almost hear that chattering now, but it isn't as bad as I did one of the other ones, thinking, oh, silicone's going to help it. But I looked it up. I didn't tighten that real tight, it just made it snug. Snug. You want to do kind of a star pattern. And then the end, you want to go around and tighten them. Snug. And last but not least. Gives your arms a workout, that's for sure. These are very fine threads. Okay, so I'm going to go around in circles now. And just snug them up a little more each time. You're going to find that's drawing the gear together. And it looks like I got them all in there. Believe it or not, these take a good amount of torque, so. And no chattering. That's what I like. No oozing, no chattering. And the drive works good. Now, there's a little resistance in here. It's cold here in Vegas right now. It's 44 degrees or something. So, once this starts working itself in, and you get out there and you start working it, it will loosen up. So, especially when it starts getting hot here. We'll thin out a little, but the silicone is meant to not thin out a lot. So, once again, clean all this up. Everything's looking good. I got nothing oozing out anywhere. And away we go. So there's one diff built. Okay, I already did the other two. Like I said, I did them the exact same way. That other than having to replace an O-ring with a Vital O-ring. I did go against what it said I was going to do, and that was clean this up. I was going to leave the grease on this. I didn't. I'm going to try this other grease. I left the grease on the other ones, but I didn't leave it on that gear. I just spread some around in that gear, enough to give it some, you know, some lubrication. This is sealed itself too. I wish I'd like to see this fully sealed, but they left a big hole in the bottom. So I'm going to actually apply my multi-purpose grease here, run it, and I'm going to pull this front end apart again sooner than everything else because I'm not worried about that O-ring, but I just want to make sure that it worked. So we're just going to liberal amount right there. Make sure it gets down on the gears, or on the teeth of the gear, I guess you could say, not on the gears. Okay. And then we're going to add a little to this too. I said a little. There we go. Not a whole lot. I don't want this spitting grease everywhere. I'll actually wipe a bunch of this off with my finger just to press the lube down in the gears. That should be pretty good. That's a good coating of it. So, pushing it down. Now this is, like I said, sealed against the pan. So you shouldn't see much dirt up there. If you do, then obviously the mating surfaces aren't correct. There's a certain way this goes in, so you got to make sure that you get it in right. Okay. Don't forget the two O-rings that came with it. Keeps it spaced centered. Like so. And this other half will go in like so. When that's all bolted together, that runs nice and free. Of course, you hear the grease. But that's freer than it was before. It actually rolls really nice. So, and that's it. That's the front diff. That's how I build them. Like I said, I took some ideas, and I'll leave links for you guys to go watch these other videos that I watched too, for the European guys that run on road with their four-wheel drive cars. And that's how they did their diffs. So, thanks for watching. I know this is a long video. I tried to cut some of it out, but hopefully it helps you, and take your time. That's my best. That is the largest bit of advice I can tell anyone when it comes to rebuilding, building, you know, kit-wise, or just tearing apart a new one. And you can see what you'll find when you tear apart a new one. You'll find flaws. Take your time. And please, whatever you do, do it by hand. Don't use a mechanical or an electric screwdriver or a screw gun. I don't want to see anybody tear up any plastic parts. So unless it's going into metal, the threads are both metal, then that's fine. But otherwise, take your time. Appreciate it. Be sure and subscribe. Be sure and like. Leave some comments down below. And you guys have a great day. Thanks again.
Yeah.